The Archie Adventure series was one of those strange cases of a comic adaptation from a cartoon adaptation based on a comic. So when it came to adapting a character like April O'Neil, she could have been more like the cartoon version, or the original. Instead, she became an almost completely different character. Join me today as I explore the Archie version of April O'Neil, and what made her go in such a different direction. In theory, this version of April is a spin-off of the Fred Wolf cartoon. That means everything about her should be the same up until the first 2 episodes of Season 2. That said, the comic quickly abandoned everything that had already been established and began building a reimagined version of the adventurous reporter. Nothing was revealed about her family growing up, but the comic did introduce 2 interesting additions. She had an uncle in Scotland, and she was also the descendant of a powerful Asian sorcerer. I'll come back to that later in the video. Her uncle, Tam McNeil, was introduced when April, Splinter, and the Turtles went on vacation to northern Scotland. Once there, April tried to contact her uncle, who she hadn't seen in ages. Tam was living in a house near McNeil Castle, next to Loch Ness. He wasn't living in the castle because it was infested with banshees, something April helped resolve by putting them to rest, which is a story for another day. April's streak as a damsel in distress reached its climax when she was kidnapped while investigating the murder of union leader Chico Mendes in Brazil. Her presence started ruffling some feathers, and she had to be rescued by Jaguar and the Turtles. April spent a significant amount of time surviving alongside the Turtles on their way back to New York, and by the end of it, she had started using one of Leonardo's katanas to defend herself. Realizing that learning to defend herself had become a necessity, she asked Master Splinter to teach her ninjitsu. During the beginning of her training, she met Chu Shi, a fireman who almost died while saving a baby from a fire at a curio shop. The owner of that shop, Fu Sheng, used a spell to fuse Chu Shi with the spirit of a warrior dragon, allowing him to transform into a giant dragon. You may know this character as Hothead. With the Turtles busy fighting Shredder, April and Splinter became involved in tracking Fu Sheng and Chu Shi, who had been kidnapped by the Dogstar clan and taken to Hiroshima, Japan. The leader of that clan, Chien Khan, wanted Fu Sheng to release the spirit of the warrior dragon so he could control it. Fu Sheng had no choice but to obey, as Chien Khan threatened to kill a girl named Oyuki Mamisha. After learning that April, Splinter, and the Turtles were in Hiroshima, Chien Khan sent Ninjara to hunt them down. Chien Khan's plan was complicated, and so were his motivations. He commanded the dragon to destroy a nuclear plant, as the release of that energy would allow him to open a gateway to a world of demons and free Noi Tai Dar into our world. It would later be revealed that Chien Khan had already made a deal with this demon in the past to save his own life. Of course, the Turtles, with some supernatural help, prevented his plans, and he was revealed to be some sort of mutant dog under his mask before escaping. Ninjara joined the group, and Oyuki was placed under April's care. As for Chu Shi, he and April developed a romantic relationship, but after sharing a kiss under the moonlight, they decided to take things slowly. Oyuki moved in with April in her New York apartment, but it quickly became clear that they were about to have trouble paying the rent. After consistently disappearing for weeks at a time, April's job as a weekend anchor at WRTL News was at risk. After being left in the dark too many times, her boss, Murdoch Maxwell, decided to fire her. With extra time on her hands, and after getting involved in a Chinatown gang war between the Dogstar clan and the Golden Triangle gang, April decided to go freelance and train Oyuki as her camera woman. After listening to April's answering machine, it became clear to Oyuki that she had a steady supply of potential boyfriends. But according to April, she didn't really care about them, and none of those relationships ever progressed, at least not like Chu Shi. While investigating the gang conflict, April and Oyuki accidentally escalated the war, bringing the two leaders face to face, Chien Khan and the mysterious Johnny Yen. Johnny wasn't interested in going to war with the Dog Stars. He saw more potential in forming an alliance with Chien Khan and ruling New York together. But Chien Khan had originally been part of the Golden Triangle gang. He admired Johnny Yen, which motivated him to study the supernatural. His rise in power became a source of jealousy among his peers, and before long, they tried to kill him. This was when Chien Khan made a deal to save his life and was transformed into a mutant dog. Now, he was only interested in going to war to uncover the source of Johnny's powers. Thanks to April, Johnny ended up powerless, and the war came to an end, and Chien Khan was taken to the demon world by Noi Tai Dar. After selling her report to another news station, April received a surprise visit from her former boss, Murdoch, who offered to rehire her with a substantial raise. But after coming to terms with the reality of her life, she decided to remain a freelancer, with Oyuki's help. Despite being a freelancer, or perhaps because there was very little editorial oversight in this book, April was also an anchor for Channel 3. In one of her reports, she talked about an abandoned island, and after looking at a picture of it, she began experiencing strange behavior, repeatedly saying the word Maiste. Obsessed with the island, April decided to travel there herself. Understandably worried, Splinter and the Turtles followed her to the island. After making their way through the jungle, April entered an old house, accidentally bringing an ancient sorceress to life, who looked almost like an Asian version of herself. The sorceress, who called herself Maiste, was April's ancestor. She had been imprisoned there for 1,000 years, waiting for someone of her own bloodline to set her free. May was hungry for knowledge and wanted to absorb everything from those around her. After seeing her drink a strange liquid that transformed her into a giant mechanical warrior, Splinter theorized that, given her lineage, April could do the same. She did, and the two engaged in battle until Maiste returned to her tomb. Or at least, that was how it seemed. May returned with the intention of absorbing all of Splinter's knowledge, something the Turtles, April, and Bookworm were able to prevent. After that adventure, they never saw Maiste again. April and Oyuki found themselves up against sensationalist competition in the form of McIntyre and his cameraman, Squint, from a show known as Inside Affairs. McIntyre managed to get the Turtles on camera, later revealing their existence to the world. Knowing that April was associated with them, he began following her, hoping to capitalize on his audience's fear of the 4 Ninja Turtles. This put them in harm's way, and they ironically had to be rescued by the Turtles. To put an end to McIntyre's campaign against them, April agreed to appear on his show and talk about the Turtles. But it was all a ruse. Oyuki distracted Squint in the control room while a tape was played, showing how a government scientist had tortured Michelangelo. The footage then continued as the Turtles freed Mikey, and by the end of it, they even saved the scientist's life. This was enough to turn the audience in their favor, undoing all the damage McIntyre had caused. Sometime later, future versions of Raphael and Donatello became stuck in the present and had to be rescued by future versions of Leonardo and Michelangelo. On their way there, Leonardo brought one of his students, Nobuko, who also happened to be April's great-granddaughter. The two shared a brief moment together before Nobuko returned to the future. In a story I already covered in a different video, April felt shaken after hearing Master Splinter say he had forgotten how it felt to be human. This pushed her to research an anti-toxic waste serum that could reverse harmful mutations. It didn't take long for her to discover that the new owners of the company behind the research were aliens looking for test subjects. When they caught April and her informant, Perry Gray, spying on them, they mutated them into a turtle and a flying squirrel, respectively. After escaping the lab, they asked the Turtles for help, and for the first time, April experienced what it felt like to be a mutant ninja turtle. Wearing a white bandana and armed with a sword, April became the fifth turtle, and together, they defeated the aliens. At the end of the fight, there was only enough anti-mutagen left for one person. Splinter refused it, saying that one should always move forward in life. April suggested that Perry take it, since she had mutant friends who could support her in this new phase. But Perry decided otherwise. Believing the world would miss a reporter more than it would miss her, she used the antidote on April. She later justified it by saying that she really enjoyed gliding. After the turtles returned from Alaska, April and Raphael ran into a street vigilante known as Casey Jones. April introduced herself, and after seeing his face, she seemed to develop a romantic interest in him. What happened to Chu Shi, you may ask? Will April and Casey become a thing? Maybe someday. If this universe continues, we'll find out. While that was one of her last canon appearances, we know that by the turn of the millennium, she was still living with Oyuki, who had become a reporter. It's not entirely clear what April was doing at the time, but she had become a full-blown ninja. So, going back to the question I asked at the beginning of the video, how could this version of April be so different from the cartoon and the original comic? Well, it all started around issue 14, when writer Steve Murphy became aware of April's damsel in distress loop from the cartoon. Not interested in writing her as someone who always needed rescuing, he decided to give her an arc that would make her capable of defending herself. This arc took several issues to develop. It began with April being kidnapped one last time in Brazil, and from there, she gradually became more independent, even fighting on her own without the turtles' support. This wasn't the only major difference from the show. The Channel 6 action newscast was also abandoned once Steve Murphy joined the book, and they never exactly matched their cartoon counterparts to begin with. The only element Murphy kept was April working for WRTL Channel 3, which was taken from the live-action movie. You could argue that this was done intentionally, since Mirage didn't own those characters, or Channel 6, as they were created for the cartoon. However, Steve has mentioned on occasion that he wasn't watching the show at the time. If you think about it, the book was written as a kid-friendly version of the original. This freedom from strict cartoon continuity allowed the creative team to place April in regular clothes and turn her into a ninja who could go on adventures with the turtles without needing constant protection. And of course, Steve gave his version of April a romantic interest with supernatural powers, while the cartoon version never made it past a single date. Although that storyline was eventually forgotten as the stakes grew higher later in the run. Finally, it's worth mentioning that this version of April also became the first female Ninja Turtle, something that was only possible because it was short-lived, and the book had almost non-existent oversight from Mirage. So, is this your favorite version of April? Do you think it would have been interesting for the cartoon version to go in the same direction? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching. See you in the sewers.